More blows to Casey Anthony's defense. Lead attorney Jose Baez gets bad news. The judge says no way, Jose, to Baez's request for a private hearing, with the prosecutors left outside to discuss critical, sensitive defense matters. Is Baez trying to keep a secret defense strategy under wraps so he can spring it at trial? He claims he has a secret explanation as to why Casey waited a month, an entire month, before calling cops when her daughter vanished. Here is Casey's explanation in the police interrogation tape.
Why didn't you call prior to today?
I think part of me was naive enough to think that I could handle this myself, which obviously I couldn't. And I was scared that something would happen to her if I did notify the authorities or got the media involved, or my parents, which I know would have done the same thing. Just the fear of the unknown, fear of the potential of Kaylee getting hurt, of not seeing my daughter again.
Do you buy her story? Has the defense now come up with a new explanation they don't want prosecutors to know about? Today was also deposition day for Kia Marie Cruz, Casey's childhood friend turned star prosecution witness. She revealed chilling details to the National Enquirer about how she and Casey used to bury their dead pets in the very same spot where little Kaylee's remains were found. She says the burial rituals were shockingly similar to how Kaylee's remains were wrapped. I want to hear what you think about all of this. Give me a call, 1-877-JVM says. That's 1-877-586-7297. But first, my fantastic expert panel. Judy Kuriansky, Dr. Judy, noted clinical psychologist. Joanna Greenwald, criminal defense attorney. Drew Finling, Atlanta criminal defense attorney. Steve Cardian, former criminal investigator. And joining us by phone, Rozzy Franco, reporter from WFLA 540 AM. Rozzy, what is the very latest?
We learned two new key pieces of evidence, or information rather, today in the Casey Anthony murder case. Number one, Kamari Cruz, Casey's childhood friend, who told the National Enquirer the wooded area near Anthony's home where Kaylee's body was found is the same area where she and Casey spent a lot of time. She said they actually buried their dead pets there. This possibly could have been what sources are saying led the Anthony's private investigators to that site where her remains were actually found. And it'll be another big day for Casey Anthony's defense tomorrow. Casey's attorney, Jose Baez, is expected to question more than 3 Orange County Corrections officers tomorrow, along with Anthony's former private investigator, Jim Hoover. And we also learned Orange County Judge Stan Strickland denied Casey Anthony's attorney, Jose Baez, a private hearing without the public or prosecutors there. Baez had filed an ex parte hearing before Strickland, saying he wanted to meet to discuss, quote, sensitive matters which are critical to the defense to be addressed.
All right, Rozzy, excellent summary. Thank you for that. Drew Finling, the speculation is that somehow Jose Baez wants to keep under wraps defense strategy, defense evidence. Can he do that? What are Florida's discovery laws like when it comes to defense issues?
Well, what's happening here is he wanted to meet what's called ex parte, that is just alone with the judge and not share with the other side. There was no way the judge was going to grant that. Jane, let me explain when that happens. When somebody is representing somebody that's too poor, for example, to hire an expert witness or a psychologist or an investigator, then the U.S. Supreme Court says you have the right to privately go talk to the judge, because if you had money, you wouldn't have to tell the prosecution that you wanted to hire one of these experts. But for just sharing what your defense is, that's just not going to fly. If he wants to come public with it, then come public with it. Gee willikers, the prosecution comes public with everything they have, so he might as well start doing it, because all of the country, and more importantly, your potential jurors, think he's going along with Casey's pathetic defense.
But Joanna Greenwald, is he required to do so if he has, let's say, some tidbit, some nugget of evidence that would allow him to come up with an alternate explanation for why Casey Anthony waited a month before informing police her daughter was missing? Could he hold that back and then spring it on the jury and the world at trial?
Well, it depends. When I say it depends, I mean that, for example, in New York, it's called the reciprocal discovery rule, where as you get information, both district attorney's office or AUSAs, they turn that over, you turn that over. And so he would have a duty. So this whole thing This is just for him to get attention, because he knows well and good that anything he might uncover or anything he brings out that he wants to, justification defenses, self-defense as an example, which isn't in this case, he has to turn over. There's discovery timelines that he has to do it. So he knows better. So I have no idea why he's talking about it. It's unimpressive to me, except to pollute the jury pool, which I think is what his end result of what he's trying to do. Because remember, he's always been placing a change of venue. He wants to get out of there because how is she going to get a fair trial? So I don't believe any of this. I think this is calculated.
All right, well, let's talk about today's big deposition. Kia Marie Cruz, Casey's childhood friend, was grilled by Jose Baez today. She sold her story reportedly to the National Enquirer back in February. Key details about how she and Casey buried pets in the same way and in the very same place that Kaylee's remains were found. Quote, "We put the hamster in a plastic Ziploc bag and put that inside a paper bag. On the paper bag, we drew 5 or 6 hearts as a signs of love." She went on to say, "It's just too much coincidence. The place, the hearts, the bag, it all adds up." Dr. Judy, the parallels are striking to how she says they buried pets and how Kaylee's remains were found. The child's skull wrapped in a hamper and a plastic bag, double wrapped, and over the mouth, duct tape with the outline of a heart sticker, an actual heart sticker discovered nearby. What do you make of it?
I make of it, Jane, that is what is called a rehearsal. And it is strikingly, as you said, absolutely similar. And it's going through the exact motions. And actually, it's a little frightening to me because we know that the kids who, in this case, it wasn't a negative thing. We don't know how the hamster was killed or how it died. But kids who get overly involved with death with animals and even who are abusive to animals end up carrying that over at times to real human beings. And that's what worries me.
Oh, that's completely irrelevant.
I don't think it's irrelevant at all. I think it's highly relevant.
Jane, I would not.
Jane, I would not. From a hamster to the child, sure.
Jane, I would not.
Oh, but it's so true. That has been shown.
Wait, you think wait, Joanna, you think if this woman's telling the truth that it's a coincidence that both were double wrapped and both had heart stickers connected to it?
First of all, that's assuming. First of all, that's assuming.
First of all, it may not make you a murderer, but there are cases where, in fact, that does happen.
All right, Joanna, say your thing.
That does, just because you say that, hey, I brushed my hair that way, and then on the next day I brushed my hair the same way. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the direct link. She did something as a child, therefore that made her the person that murdered her.
In the same place, Joanna, the same location, which apparently as kids they called the zone?
You have to prove the district had beyond a reasonable doubt. That is not enough.
Well, first of all, Jane,
of course it's not enough, but it's very damning.
Let me just say this. I don't think that this is a rehearsal. I think this is the state of Florida versus Casey Anthony stimulus package. Okay? What happens is somebody doesn't go to law enforcement, but they have the opportunity to make what's been reported today by this network. It's $20,000, and we're going to believe this woman when information is disseminated about where the child is and how she's found, and all of a sudden, without going to law enforcement, without going to prosecutors, she goes straight to the National Enquirer.
I don't know that she didn't go to law enforcement. She did talk to law enforcement back in July about a whole bunch of things. In fact, she was the first one to tell them, look in this area to find the remains. This was the area we all hung out at. And we called it the zone.
But not this. And she sold it for $20,000. If I was Baez, I'd be praying every night they put her on the stand, because the state of Florida is pretty desperate if they have to resort to putting her up on the stand.
All right, guys, so much more to get to. Do you think Baez has a secret weapon he's saving for trial? Call 1-877-JVM says. That's 1-877-586-7297 and let me know. Then